only takes one card to ruin a format. And with over 1,800 cards in Rush Duels proper, there are a ton of cards Duel Links should not be seeing anytime soon. I asked you all what cards you want to make sure avoid Duel Links at any cost possible, and I started out with this. Straight Pierce is a support card of Tiger, a character we are very likely to get in the future. By shuffling 5 monsters from your graveyard back into the deck, you give a monster 2,000 attack and piercing. This is meant to be support for the Wind Warrior deck, hence the requirement, but the buff can go on anything. And as anyone who has played in Duel Links knows, buffing a Dragias, even by 300 or 400 points, is huge. So giving it 2,000 extra attack will essentially end the game instantly. You could try to put this on the limit 3 list, but even that would just make it feel even worse when the opponent does have it and Dragias together. So let's see what you all said. Paco responds with Rebel's Scream, which we can tab over here to see. It says, when your opponent normal summons a monster, send 2 fiends from the hand to the graveyard to destroy all face-up level 8 or lower monsters on the field. I agree completely. This will destroy your own monsters, but a lot of the time you can kind of tell when the opponent is going to be done summoning their monsters. They bring out all their normal monsters, then do a big tribute summon, and if you wipe the field right then, you're going to leave them with a wide open board to directly attack and end the game on your next turn. If they have even a single spell or trap card in their hand, they are not going to be able to reestablish. Rebel Scream, definitely do not want to see it anytime soon. Paco also says card reprint, as it provides a little bit of card advantage and provides additional life points, which are more relevant in a 6,000 life point format. However, this one I think is fine. It's pretty rare that I would want to run card reprint over a card like Currybot, Seahorse Carrier, or Paku Chew. It does give me 1 extra card on my next turn, but that's going to be worse than getting an extra card now, on this turn, with the sole exception of drawing it on turn 1. Theoretically, you could draw into additional advantage generating cards using card reprint, but I think it's gonna be a little bit bricky and cause more problems than it's worth. Obviously, you do have the high roll potential, but it's kind of like Ghost Cyclone, where a lot of decks are choosing simply to just not run it because it's only really great on that first turn. Draco Senpai responded with Meta Gias, which is another one of those cards in the line of dragons like Dragias, where they all get to attack twice. The thing to note about Meta Gias is that it can't be destroyed by trap cards, meaning Widespread Ruin is completely useless against it. It does have some downsides, as you need to discard a level 7 dragon in order to use the effect, and it can only attack monsters rather than being able to attack directly as well, but both of those things can be handled, especially since if they were to release this card, I would expect it to be getting a skill for support. Drake Tamer mentions Dark Revelation, the most obvious card to include in this kind of prompt. By shuffling away 4 spellcasters from your graveyard, it destroys all attack position monsters, just like Mirror Force. Having this card in the format would be devastating. I know I have seen some people argue to include it, especially since during the first format we were using no spell and trap cards, and it would give a player a reason to run Hammer Crush. However, Hammer Crush alone is not sufficient counterplay in my opinion, and while you could put monsters in defense mode to have them not get destroyed by Dark Revelation, I don't like the kind of interaction where you run into one card and instantly lose the game. This already happens with the weaker cards like Widespread Ruin and even the Barrier if it blows up your high-level monster. So having a Mirror Force even at 1 copy, I don't want it. And Paco finishes things off with a 3rd inclusion of the Guard. The Guard lets you shuffle 3 monsters away to negate an attack, but notably it's only a direct attack, meaning it's not going to save you as much as a card like King's Majesty, which is able to block Dragias' first attack. However, the Guard is definitely the stronger card. Even though it only negates direct attacks, shuffling 3 monsters away from your graveyard back into the deck is incredible recursion. Imagine finally getting through all of your opponent's big multi-strike Dragon Dragias, and then they shuffle all 3 of them back while also stopping the lethal blow. We have cards like the Barrier, which can recycle 1 monster, but cycling 3 is probably just a little bit too strong for the current format, especially given the lower deck size in Duel Links compared to regular Rush Duels. And it's not just boss monsters. Letting players reuse cards like Sports Dragons and Seahorse Carrier is huge. Speaking of recycling cards, I start off the YouTube comments with Siesta Torvero. The requirement, just like the guard, has you shuffle 3 monsters from the graveyard into the deck, and that is why I think this card is too good for modern Duel Links. Changing any monster your opponent controls to defense position is really good for getting over just about anything in the game. Dragonic Slayer, 0 defense. Primogatarna, 0 defense. Dragius, only 15. So, as a Lolo monster, you have to compare this card to Torna the Windweaver, which can change from defense to attack position as well, but it requires a discard and a tribute. You're saving 2 cards whenever you're using the primary purpose of outing bosses. It does also add Siesta Hold from the graveyard, but it is worth noting nobody is actually going to be running Siesta Hold. It is purely the shuffling and the position change that make this card so good. Thonk goes on a similar thought as someone else, and rather than Metagias, they mention Miragias. So, just like Metagias, you send a level 7 or higher dragon type monster to the graveyard, and then this card can attack twice. Rather than having a boss immunity, this card is an OTK machine, with it lowering the attack of 2 monsters by 1500, inflicting an additional 3000 damage, while also being a huge debuff that is able to get over anything in the game. Even more than Metagias, I would not want to see this one. And it is worth noting, this one actually, I believe, came out first. Red does mention some Floodgate cards. For example, we have Barrier Statue of the Inferno, which is, as of recently, the very first card to be officially banned in Rush Duels. Funnily enough, it would probably actually be fine in the current Duel Links format, as we are still in the meta where normal summoning takes up the majority of our stuff. Barrier Statue could stop cards like Beast Summoner or Trike Fox from cheating out boss monsters, but for the most part, we are all still using advantage engines. Cards like Seahorse Carrier and Currybot to get out the boss monsters, so we'd be able to just tribute things off and run over the Barrier Statue ourselves. That being said, I do not expect it to be added anytime soon. And that's it for this thread. If you like seeing the cards we shouldn't add, go ahead and check out my previous video on the cards that should be added immediately. Thank you for watching and have a good day.